Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Arthur Carstro finally gets a new crew chief, and Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. and Dino Draftsky would get into a tire fight, which as a result means that Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. has been fired by Clutchade. Clean Glass will take back Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. and Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. is back with the team. He also announces his retirement. Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. is retiring? And here is what Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. has to say about his retirement. And now, Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. and Dino Draftsky are now rivals. Now onto the starting grid, where, obviously, Jackson Storm will start at pole position, and Tim Treadless will start to his outside. Row 2 has Kevin Carvick and Cam Spinner, who hopes to do well this race. Now onto row 3, where Flipped Over starts on the inside again, and JP Drive will start to his outside. Row 4 has Barry DePedal and Ryan Inside Laney starting on the outside. Now onto row 5, where Lightning McQueen will be starting alongside Green Bean Carfine, both hoping to do well this race. Row 6 has James Garrison and Ed Trunken to his outside. I wonder how they'll do this race. And Martin Carrix Jr. will start on the inside of row 7 with Aaron Clocker to his outside. Row 8 has Jim Reverick, who did well in practice, and Jonas Carvers to his outside. Row 9 has the Garrison Motorsports teammates of JD McPillar and Chris Roman. Now on to row 10, where Harvey Rodcap will be starting alongside Bobby Swift, the second stock car of the race. Row 11 has Richie Gunzit and Steve Slick LePage. I wonder how slick this was. Row 12 has HJ Hollis and Tony Gasworth, who massively overperformed in qualifying, beating Pitbull Speed Racer and Dan Garcia in row 13. How did this happen? Row 14 has Nick Shift! What are you doing back here? And Brick Yardley to his outside. Row 15 has Arthur Carstro with his new crew chief and Sebastian Silva to his outside. Now on to row 16, where Eric Breaker and Bubba Wheelhouse. How are you starting back here? Same with Jamarcus K. Cart and Herb Kerbler. What are you doing behind so many stock cars? Row 18 has Cal Williams and Maury Clutchburn to his outside. I wonder how they'll do this race. Now on to row 19, where Reb Meeker and Brian Sparks will be starting. And now, oh no! Dino Draftsky and Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. will both start in row 20. Row 21 has Rev Rodages and Ralph Carlo, both lucky that they both still qualified, and starting in 43rd is actually an upset with Joe Ricci qualifying ahead of Paunchy Wipeout, Buck Beeringly, and these 6 other cars that I am showing here, among many others, who all failed to qualify for this race. Now onto the race, where Jackson Storm will lead the first 5 laps of the race before losing the lead to Tim Treadless. He would only lead the field until lap 6, where, of course, Jackson Storm would retake the lead. He would lead until lap 31, where Tim Treadless would retake the lead. He would lead the field until lap 32, before, you guessed it, Jackson Storm would retake the lead. He would lead until lap 79. Meanwhile, Dino Draftsky would fail to wreck Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. on lap 42. JD McPillar would take the lead on lap 79 off of pit cycles. Lightning McQueen would take the lead briefly on lap 79 as well. Same with Bobby Swift. 2 stock cars taking the lead before lap 100. But after the pit stops are done, Jackson Storm would be back in the lead until lap 110, where JP Drive would take the lead for himself, leading for 2 more laps before Jackson Storm would retake the lead again, leading all the way until lap 153. Steve Slick LePage would, with some slick moves, take the lead on lap 153. Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. would fail to wreck Dino Draftsky on lap 153. Jackson Storm would take the lead once again, of course, just before turn 4. But on lap 188, Martin Carrix Jr. would take the lead from Jackson Storm and keep the lead until lap 223, where JP Drive would retake the lead. He would lead for 2 more laps before Martin Carrix Jr. would retake the lead once again, keeping the lead until lap 257, where Joe Ricci would be out because of an engine failure. But hey, Joe Ricci at least lasted 257 laps. I don't think Nick Charger and Will Drafter are doing that. Nick Shift would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 293. Meanwhile, Dino Draftsky would be 33rd as of lap 261, where he wrecks Who does he wreck? Cal Williams and himself. Why? And Ryan Thunderbolt Jr., his main target, is not out. Jackson Storm would take the lead on lap 293 and lead into lap 332, where Tim Treadless would retake the lead. He would lead for 4 more laps before losing the lead to Chris Roman, who would take the lead for 11 laps, the same as his number. But after that, Jackson Storm would be back in the lead, leading all the way until lap 393. Bobby Swift would go down 1 lap on lap 375, and Rev Rodages would be out because of transmission issues on lap 380. Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 393, but then, oh no! Lightning McQueen's tires are loose and has to go to the pits. Bobby Swift would get back on the lead lap on lap 393 as a result, and Jackson Storm would take the lead once again and lead for the final 7 laps of the race. Lightning McQueen would have another problem on lap 399 because he ran out of fuel. You're probably already bored of this by now, but Jackson Storm wins the 2016 Vitoline 400, which is his 19th consecutive win. How does any car win 19 consecutive races? That's over 50% of all the races in a season. Tim Treadless disappointingly finishes second this race, but we'll figure out why he's smiling a bit later in the video. Martin Carrix Jr. will finish third, Eric Breaker fourth, Ed Trunken fifth, Kevin Carvick sixth, Barry DePedal seventh, Bubba Wheelhouse eighth, Chris Roman ninth, and Cam Spinner will round out the top 10, and Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. is the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 39th ahead of his rival, Dino Draftski. Now, let's see what's going on with Bobby Swift and his team, Octane Gain, who says this back to Bobby Swift's first comment, and then mentions the Junior Piston Cup racer that they have. Bobby Swift will say this in return. Wait, what? And Octane Gain says that they want this racer to take the number. And Bobby Swift says this in return. And then Octane Gain says that this developmental racer, Danny Suarez, has real talent. But Bobby Swift will not budge. He does not want to leave just yet. And Octane Gain says this. And Bobby Swift agrees to race Danny Suarez for Octane Gain's Piston Cup ride. Hopefully in the next race video, we can figure out who Danny Suarez is. Now, onto the race results, where I've already mentioned the top 10, Eric Breaker gets another top 5 finish. But who missed out on the top 10? That racer is J.D. McPillar, as well as Ryan Inside Laney, Dan Garcia, James Garrison, and Green Bean Carafine, rounding out the top 15. James Garrison beats Green Bean Carafine. Pitbull Speed Racer, Sebastian Silva aren't too far behind in 16th and 17th. Jonas Carver, Steve Slick LePage, and Herb Kerbler round out the top 20. With Flipped Over, disappointingly, finishing 21st, earning 100 points. Same with H.J. Hollis and Nick Schiff, all disappointing this race. Same with Harvey Rodcap and Jim Reverick. JP Drive was very disappointing, finishing 26th, only barely beating Arthur Castro. Richie Guns and Aaron Clocker finished behind him. Tony Gasworth rounds out the top 30. Brick Yardley, Jamarcus K. Cart, Ralph Carlo, Morey Clutchburn, and Reb Meeker round out the top 35. Not much they can do. They're stock cars in the next generation era. Brian Sparks beats Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen finishes 37th, just ahead of Bobby Swift in 38th. No wonder Team Octane Gain had a chat with Bobby Swift. That is not normal behavior. But Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. is the last car to finish on the lead lap. And I feel bad for the 4 cars who could not finish on the lead lap. Except for Dino Draftski. He caused the crash. He got exactly what he deserved. Now, onto the top 20 in points, where Lightning McQueen has lost the points lead to Tim Treadless. That is why Tim is smiling. Flipped Over is 100-ish points behind Lightning McQueen. Harvey Rodcap and Ed Trunken round out the top 5, with JD McPillar, Aaron Clocker, Bobby Swift, Brick Yardley, and Dan Garcia rounding out the top 10 with Ryan inside Laney. Not far behind at all in 11th. Kevin Carvick's behind him by 10 points. And behind them is Jackson Storm. Chris Roman, Cal Weathers round out the top 15. Cal Weathers is not racing anymore, so not much he can do. JP Drive, James Garrison, Jonas Carvers, Barry DePedal, and Reb Meeker round out the top 20. Due to Reb Meeker's performances, he will probably lose 20th to Bubble Wheelhouse, who is currently in 21st, 98 points behind.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
We're still in the Advent calendar. And since this is the 35th race of the 2016 Piston Cup season, you already know the next race is the 2016 LA 500. The video covering that race will be coming out very soon, but probably not tomorrow, as that video will require some work. But a video will still be coming out tomorrow. But please do not forget that unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still ongoing. The Ukrainian people just want to live in peace and have freedom. But right now, they have neither because of the tyrant and bully, Vladimir Putin, who escalated this conflict on February 24th, 2022, and began it as a whole back in 2014. Vladimir Putin's tyranny doesn't just rule over all of Russia, it's also currently ruling over Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson Oblasts, illegally. We here at the KA Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny by me making this segment at the end of all of my videos since the escalation of the conflict. I am helping spread awareness. And also, we recognize Ukraine's true borders as shown by this map. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava, Nechai Shvetse Darotsya, Ukraini Permoha. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.